Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another showing of the Atheist Experience. I'm your host today, Ashley Perrien, and my co-host this week, Jeff D.
Hi, Ashley.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
We are live today, October 24th, and we are being sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets, which is on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. It's at, I think the actual address is 1211 West 6th Street. Those start, again, that's every Sunday at 11:30 and go until about 1:30, 2 o'clock or so. It's very informal, very open. Any atheist-friendly people, you're more than welcome to come down and sit and schmooze. Don't need to be a member or anything like that. That is every Sunday, save the third Sunday of the month when we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe. Those start at 12:30. The next one, I was completely stupid and forgot to print out the information, but we are having one next month. The third Sunday, I forget who's speaking or what it's about. The last one we had was last week about intelligent or artificial intelligence. And it was an excellent lecture. So we do have a speaker lined up for next week, or the third Sunday of November. I'll try and get the information and have that next week. That is every third Sunday of the month, 9th and Guadalupe, the Austin History Center, from 12:30 until 2. Other regular things that we do, every Thursday we have Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Tex-Mex on the southbound feeder of I-35, just south of 183. Those start at 7:30, and again, it's very much like the Sunday meeting, very informal, very open. If you want to come down and meet us, more than welcome to. Also, the final thing that we have regularly going on, every other Sunday, we have the Non-Profits, an internet audio show, which is hosted by Jeff D. and co-host Dennis Lubay, who is in our studio today, and is produced by Russell Glasser, which is another one of the co-hosts on this show. That's every Sunday, atheistnetwork.com, MP3 stream.
Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Every other Saturday.
Okay. And you had one last week.
We had one yesterday.
Or actually yesterday, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bleh. Yesterday, the other one's in 2 weeks from now.
Uh-huh.
And that's from 2 to 3:30.
Right.
And if you go to our website, atheistnetwork.com, and click on the radio show Non-Profits link, you can download the last half dozen episodes or thereabouts at that site. All right, I believe that is it. It seemed like there was something else I wanted to mention, but I can't for the life of me remember what it is. So anyway, if it comes up, it'll come up. If not, it wasn't worth it. Jeff, what's next?
Thanks, Ashley. Well, last time I was on, which was only 2 weeks ago, is that right?
Yeah.
You guys have shifted the schedule around.
Yeah, the schedule has shifted a little bit now, so we're...
But on the Atheist Community of Austin website, on the calendar page, it says who's going to be the co-host for those of you that care about that.
And that has been updated as far as I know.
Last time I was on the show, we got a call from a young lady who wanted to know what atheists thought about, I forget specifically what it was, but it was like reincarnation, human energy fields, so the spiritualism, therapeutic touch, that kind of stuff. Well, she went on and on and on and on, and we kept telling her, no, there's no evidence of any of that stuff. Go learn the actual science. Something came up in the news a couple of weeks ago that speaks to this issue as just an example of the way that science is finding that a lot of things that we classify as supernatural or paranormal abilities are, in fact, not nearly as magical and cool as people think they are, and if they have any reality at all, it is a simple physical effect that is, has a practical explanation. This story says, psychic powers that enable people to see auras around others may simply be a quirk of the brain. Supposed psychic powers that enable people to see auras around others may simply be a quirk of the brain, according to a University College of London study of a rare form of synesthesia where some people see colorful auras around their loved ones. The case study, reported in the October issue of Cognitive Neuropsychology, shows how some people can experience colors in response to people they know or words that evoke emotions, a condition known as emotion color synesthesia. Dr. Jamie Ward, author of the study, says a popular notion is that some people have a magical ability to detect the hidden emotions of others by seeing a colorful aura or energy field they give off. Our study suggests a different interpretation. These colors do not reflect hidden energies being given off by other people. Rather, they are created entirely in the brain of the beholder. In the study, they documented a woman known as GW who could see colors like purple and blue in response to people she knew or their names when they were read to her. Words triggered a color which spread across her whole field of vision, while people themselves appeared to have colored auras projected around them. For example, James triggered pink, Thomas black, and Hannah blue. A similar test using 100 words, rated on a scale from 1 to 7 for their emotional impact, showed that highly emotive words, such as fear or hate, also triggered colors. Words associated with positive emotions tended to elicit pink, orange, yellow, and green, whereas words associated with negative emotions triggered brown, gray, and black. While it is quite common to describe people or emotions metaphorically in terms of colors, GW actually reported vividly seeing them, these colors. Yeah. Indeed, when James, a pink word, was written in the wrong color, such as blue, her reaction times were slowed. She had trouble seeing the word.
Figuring it out.
If it was actually written in a color other than the one she was expecting. Synesthesia is a condition found in 1 in 2,000 people in which stimulation of one sense produces a response in one or more of the other senses. For example, people with synesthesia may experience shapes with tastes or smells with sounds. It is thought to originate in the brain, and some scientists believe it might be caused by a cross-wiring in the brain, for example, between centers involved in emotional processing and smell perception. Synesthesia is known to run in families.
Yeah.
So anyway, the upshot of this is, rather than assuming that people give off auras or energy fields that can only be detected by rigged cameras or trained seers, we need only assume that the phenomena of synesthesia is taking place.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't even aware until I read this that there were any people who that there was any evidence that there was any consistency to these kinds of things. I mean, as far as I knew about the supposed phenomena of aura reading,
random.
it was guesswork on the part of the reader. Well, considering only 1 in 2,000 people has synesthesia and actually sees or actually has their emotions and perceptions cross-wired, and only some portion of those are going to be the ones specifically who see colors in response to emotions.
Yeah.
There's probably not very many people out there who actually really do see auras, but
Exactly.
some who do. This would be the explanation. That there was any consistency to it surprised me, but hearing the explanation, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. I have seen a couple different shows and articles and such on this, and using trick photography, they kind of simulate it.
Right.
And so
Perrien photography is a thing they came up with that.
Well, no, not about the auras, about the synesthesia.
Oh.
To where, again, certain people, it's specific letters or words, just like you were saying, that have a color aura to them.
Right.
And so, again, when you're looking at a page, the word Michael, for instance, or whatever, it'll kind of have a red hue to it.
Really?
Around it, something like that.
See, that would be handy if we could do it on purpose.
Exactly, if you can program that kind of thing. But yeah, it was something I'd heard about, but I'd never actually attached it to possibly emotion, which
I think
it's a fairly obvious extension.
It's very common for psychic and supernatural and religious beliefs, for it to eventually be discovered that there is some neurological thing going on
Exactly.
that produces an effect sort of similar to what they're reporting, and when it's different from what they report, the difference seems to be a matter of interpretation on the part of the person experiencing it.
Yeah.
Right? It's them, trying to figure out, well, what can this mean?
Yeah.
When I see Bob, he seems to glow pink. Well, it means your brain is cross-wired in a kind of kooky way.
Yeah.
So for that caller and other people out there that are holding on to supernatural beliefs, I mean, you can believe what you want, but when you ask us questions about this, we're going to direct you to the scientific literature, which we think casts more of a light on what's really going on.
Yeah. We have no evidence of auras in any other form, so
no.
This is a better explanation that we found, so
yeah,
we'll go with that for right now.
Yeah. Now there's something else. We got a letter, and I think this is not in response to my appearance on the show, but the one before that.
Okay.
Because it doesn't ring any bells.
Yeah, this was a little while back.
Yeah.
Must have been on a replay.
Ephraim, I won't give the whole name because we don't have permission. Ephraim wrote, Jeff, I was in town on business, and I was channel surfing and found your show. I found it somewhat interesting and amusing for a couple of guys who don't have all the facts about religion to be making broad statements about there not being a God. There are billions of people who would disagree with you. Well, okay, that there are billions of people that disagree with us is entirely irrelevant. That's called an argumentum ad populum. It's a standard logical fallacy. The fact that a bunch of people agree with you does not make you right. But getting to the meat of this objection here, not having all the facts about religion, I mean, nobody has all the facts about anything, and yet we consider it acceptable for people to draw conclusions. Besides, whether there's a God or not is a question of fact. Now, you can have faith or belief about whether there's a God or not, but on the real question, are there any gods or not? That is a yes-no factual question, and it has nothing to do with the details of the various religions that people have formed in response to deciding that there is a God. I just don't even understand how this is relevant.
Unless you're getting into the whole argument of what is the definition of God.
I guess. By the way, when he goes on...
outside of that.
Yeah, he goes on to say, I'm not referring just to Catholics or Christians, but also Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, etc. By the way, Buddhists don't have a God. It says, religion is based on beliefs and faith and not just on what you can or cannot prove. That's right. Religion is. But on the question of whether there's a God or not, that is a question of fact. There either is or there isn't. What somebody believes about it has no bearing on that. What matters is the evidence. He goes, I have one question. You say there is no proof of God existing. Do you have any proof there isn't? This is standard shifting of the burden of proof. It is not the responsibility of unbelievers to prove that there isn't a God. The burden of proof for a thing lies with the party positing the existence of that thing. This is a basic rational principle. Those who say they know that a thing exists are assumed to be making that claim based on the evidence they have, which proved the thing's existence to them. So it's up to them to pass on that information to the rest of us. We can't prove that the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, or the abominable snowman don't exist either. Does that mean that we all must silently accept the word of anyone who comes along claiming that they do? Of course not. When there's no evidence that a thing exists, refraining from belief in that thing, which is the atheist position, is the rational default response. So I refrain from believing in the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, Bigfoot, and gods. Now this is the part that really struck me. He says, I can appreciate and respect your opinions and beliefs. However, I do not appreciate you saying that anyone that believes in God is wrong or a liar. Well, if there isn't a God, then anyone who says that they believe in a God is either wrong or lying. Either they don't really believe it, or they really do believe it and they're wrong. Now, you can argue with me about whether or not a God exists, and I'm going to come back to the question of fact. If you can give us evidence that the God exists, I'll back down. I'll say, gosh, you're right. And since I now agree, in that case, I would agree with you that a God did exist, and I would withdraw my accusation that people that say they believe in one are wrong or lying. But until you've established that a God exists, that's the only conclusion that I can reach. I am sorry if what I say hurts your feelings. I'm not saying it in order to hurt your feelings. I'm saying it because I think it is the correct thing to say. Anyway, so that there was more detail to that letter, but those are the points that I really wanted to get into.
There was one other thing in that I kind of thought
that
was
last bit about hanging up on people.
Semi-interesting. Yeah. We do get accused of that every now and then, but not too often actually. Typically, by having the show, or we're a live call-in show. Call in and ask us anything you want. We'll debate you. We typically don't hang up on people. Now, he did mention specifically a minister or deacon that called in the end. Now, that would be Don. Don is one of the callers who has called in several times to this show. He always makes empty points, asks loaded questions, turns it into a personal, we all are just stupid people then, and makes all these accusations and such. We've dealt with him several times over the years, and we basically know how he's working, and so give him a little bit of time, and then we're going to move on.
And in the last show I was on where he called in, he literally would not stop to let us respond to the things he said.
Exactly.
And that can't, this is a call-in show, there's back and forth, it can't work like that. You get to speak, we get to respond, we let you speak again.
Yeah.
That is how it works.
Yeah.
So, we do sometimes hang up on people if they're being rude, if they're cranks, if it just goes on forever, we go around in circles and the call isn't going anywhere.
Yep.
Or if they will not play by, the basic rules of discourse.
Yeah. But to anyone who's watched the show more than once, hanging up or putting people on hold is pretty rare. So it doesn't happen.
We try not to.
All that
we don't
often.
like to, but sometimes you just have to.
Exactly. So anyway, again, we are a live call-in show. Phone number is on your screen. More than welcome to give us a call. Talk about pretty much anything you got to ask us. We're going to go on. I got one quick story here I can go on to really quick for a filler. But again, phone number's on your screen. Give us a call. The Book of Mormon.
What about
is coming out in comic book form. Meaning that you can go down to the store. We're not kidding here, but the Book of Mormon will soon come out in comic book form. It'll be a 12-volume set that will be released over the next several years. Volume 1 is due out next week. I don't have the date on this article, but I did get it just sometime this week, so I assume end of October. One comic book shop we spoke to had already had a waiting list to buy the first issue. It's going to be called The Golden Plates, and let's see. That's the name of the series, and it comes out every other month. The Golden Plates is the Book of Mormon depicted in comic book. Volume 1 is First Nephi, or Nephi. Nephi, sorry. Chapters 1 through 14. And for anyone who's comic book fans, the illustrator is Mike Allred, a well-known comic book author and illustrator. He's worked for 15 years with major comic book companies like DC and Marvel. A member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Allred said that he's been thinking about the project for quite some time.
I'm actually a big fan of Michael Allred's art.
Okay.
And the comics that he's worked on and the things he's come up with so far. This is a bit of a shock to me to find out that he's
a Mormon.
A, religious, and B, Mormon.
And C, coming out with a Book of Mormon in comic book form.
Well, there are. I will reserve judgment though until I see the thing, because I remember a comic book from Canada. This underground comic called Yummy Fur. That was extremely disturbing and creepy and bizarre.
The name of it alone, yes.
And, I won't even begin to try to describe what was in it. If you've ever seen any underground comics, you have some idea what I'm talking about. But then, after a few issues, the author of the comic started this backup feature where he did, I think it was the Gospel of Mark, some gospel, I don't know which one, some New Testament gospel.
Okay.
A straight translation, right? Not twisted, not, slanted, just
take what's written.
A literal depiction of the events described in the book. And it was extremely bizarre and creepy because, there's these weird supernatural things going on and, odd things that people say, and it's just all presented straight. And, I thought that was a work of delicious satire. Because it was done straight. Yeah. And it could be this Book of Mormon thing is the same thing. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, it could be that to us and very different to actual Mormons and to all the other religions because, again, it's saying that he is a member of the church. So chances are he's not going to do this in such a way that it kind of slants it to make it look weird and creepy. But the author plans to release additional volumes every other month until the entire Book of Mormon is covered, which, again, they say is several years. So that will be interesting.
There's already been animated TV show version of the Book of Mormon.
Okay.
On South Park.
Oh yes, the South Park episode. That was very funny.
Who have seen that will understand the Golden Plates reference.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, live call-in show. Phone numbers on your screen. We have got a couple callers lined up now, but the phone lines are open. So if you want to go ahead and give us a call, we will get you on the air when we can. First one, we're going to go on to Eddley. Is that your name?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Hi.
What you got for us?
Fine. Yeah, I just want to make a comment. There is a God, and God is supposed to be perfect because He's the beginning and the end. If that is the case, then where did evil come from? You know what I mean?
That's a darn good question.
If it's only good and He created everything,
right?
Then I don't see where evil could have came from because that tells me that either He's both good and evil, or somehow there is some other being that is evil, which it can be because He created everything.
Right, and He would have created that evil being, and why would He do that?
Yes, now so that's something that because I grew up in religion, and it's something that I had thought about, and I say it doesn't make no sense.
You're right.
If I'm a perfect being, like He is, why would I want to make something imperfect unless I have, let's say, evil?
Yeah. Now, I think I know what they'd begin by telling you if this was a Christian show you were calling. They would say, God's got His reasons. He's wiser than you. How dare you question? Right? But that's just, a scare tactic to get you to stop questioning. I don't think that's a fair answer.
Yeah. Just saying that He's above any question or He's so much smarter than we could ever be. Therefore, don't bother asking anything.
I understand. Whether to say that, well, you don't understand everything. You just got to believe. Yeah. But, I mean, to me, that's a very simple question. You know what I mean? And I don't think you have to be a super being to figure that if He's the beginning and the end, then, and He's only good, then there shouldn't be no evil. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not possible.
You'd think, here's an... This is odd. When people that basically agree with us call in, we're sometimes put in the position of presenting the Christian arguments. And I know another one. Mm-hmm. Another common argument that you'll get from believers is, well, in order for there to be free will, there has to be evil. Mm-hmm. Because if there wasn't evil, you couldn't choose it, and then you wouldn't be free. Right? The problem is that, that evil could have taken all kinds of different forms, right? Evil could be making people unhappy, and not necessarily like killing them, right? Stealing their stuff. It's very easy to conceive of a universe where you have choices to do things that are bad, that are way less severe than the kinds of bad things that we can physically get away with now. See what I'm saying? So that gets back to the question, well, why would evil have to be so bad? You'd still have free will.
And, the way I see it is, if I'm a perfect being, why would I want anything I create to know what the opposite is. Which I should know what evil is, because I ain't evil, and evil doesn't exist in my world. Why would I want to make something opposite to what I believe in just to prove what?
That's an interesting thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
that's like me putting a gun
Genesis
on top of my table and then telling my kid, look, if you touch that gun, it could hurt somebody.
Right.
I'm going to
lock it away in the cabinet.
You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Here's an interesting thing.
On it.
Here's another interesting thing. Read Genesis, right? In Genesis, there's this tree of good and evil, right? That Adam and Eve are not supposed to eat from. God says, don't eat from that tree. Well, why did he put the tree there in the first place?
But that's what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying.
I mean, that's like me telling my kid, here's a gun, don't touch it because you could hurt somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm a super being, how can I, trust,
exactly. Don't put that kind of
that
power.
are less superior than me. That's like me doing that with my kid. I know that more than likely he's going to touch it and something's going to happen.
Yeah, don't put that kind of power.
It's almost as if God was. It's almost
a super
like
being that is so smart. I don't see what the purpose is.
Well, when cops do stuff like that, when police do things like that, right? When they find some guy and they try to sell him drugs, and then they arrest him after they've talked him into buying the drugs, because now he's buying drugs, and that's against the law, right? That's called entrapment, and it's a shady way of tricking people into breaking the law so you can arrest them. And I'm somewhat disturbed at the idea that there might be a cosmic being that set us up so that he could imprison us. That he set up the whole thing so that we would fail, so he could impose a punishment.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, for example, let's say that God created us and put us on Earth, like, for 1,000 years, just to see how many of these million people will either go to his side or opposite. Yeah. I mean, what you get out of it? I don't see what really. Yeah. As a super being, I would get from.
That could be
whether I get 10,000 people or 20,000. Why not create it just perfect with without the knowledge of evil?
Yeah.
Right. You're right.
Yep. Agreed. Definitely a good question. Did you have anything else for us?
No, that's it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we'll see if we get any callers who have a good answer for you.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Yes, which brings up the second point, which I forgot to mention earlier, actually.
Yeah.
First off, going back to what you're saying about your answer being God's judgment is so much greater than ours.
That's not my answer.
Well, no, but Christians' answer to this argument. Yeah. God's judgment being so much greater than ours and we shouldn't question stuff like that. We have a moral obligation to question our leaders.
I would say yes.
And to at least make sure that what they're doing is right. Now, when you're talking about a God, we should at least hold them to the same standards and say, look, if you can't come up with a good reason why, 3,000 people died in that volcanic explosion or, flood or whatever, then we have, issues here to go on.
Ooh, that's suddenly, okay, another angle on this suddenly strikes me. Okay, so there's this God, right? And he's got some mysterious reason that we can't understand why there would need to be horrible evil in the world, right? So he creates it because there's some need that we can't understand.
Okay.
So he understands why there needs to be this horrible evil, but apparently he also has some mysterious reason he understands why only he is allowed to understand what the reason is. Because all he'd have to do is make us wiser, right? Yeah. Make us wise to the point where we'd get it. Through wisdom, understanding why not to do a bad thing is not a restriction on free will, right? That is just giving us tools to, within the bounds of free will, to make better decisions.
Exactly.
So why didn't he do that?
Exactly. Yeah.
It just gets worse and worse.
People often come to us and say, if God were to just prove himself and show his existence, then we would all just be mindless automatons. We automatically believe we do all these good things, we follow him, and that would take away our free will. Well, I know police exist. Right. I know laws exist, and everyone in this country knows police and laws exist, yet not everyone follows them perfectly. Just like the same thing. Just because I know for a fact God exists doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden going to go, oh my God, I worship thee and such.
Yeah, but I think there's a slight failing in that particular argument.
Okay.
Right? Which is that we also know that these police are not omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent.
True.
Right? So we know that there are cops, but we also know we can get away with stuff.
True.
And Christians will play that card. But, then you wonder, how can any Christian ever do anything wrong? Because supposedly they do know that the God exists. They say that they do. And yet they will do things which, by their own admission, are wrong by their religion, so that they then have to go in and get forgiven for them. So, it doesn't really fly. On top of that, the whole claim that if you know something for a fact, it will impose an unbreakable restriction on your behavior. That's clearly not true.
Yeah.
It's been proved that the world is round, but there are still people out there, as you can find their websites, there are still people out there who believe the world is flat. Right? Flat Earth Society exists. These are actual human beings. It's been proved. And yet, they go right on believing that it's flat. So, and if you argue with Christians enough, you'll eventually get to the point where they're saying to you, well, even if God did prove his existence to you, you wouldn't believe. But then on the one hand, they're arguing, if he proved his existence, it wouldn't matter because you'd just not believe. And then on the other hand, if he proved his existence, it would deny your free will because you'd have to believe.
Yeah.
So, no, none of this stuff really flies.
Nah. But again, getting back to my point, hate to get backtracking, it's awkward, but moral obligation to judge God and question God and government. You have the prime opportunity to do that right now. Not with God, but with our government. We are having elections going on right now for the next leader of our country for the next 4 years. You can do early voting right now, and the final vote is on November 2nd. So if you have any say in that, any opinions, you can go down and find, they got plenty of places on the web and around town where you can vote early or wait until the actual day and go ahead and vote then. But if you like what our current administration is doing, you can vote for that guy. If you don't like it, then you can vote for the other guy. So.
And if you don't like either of them, there's other people you can vote for.
Exactly. There's lots of people on there. You can even write in people.
This brings up another thing. This came up on our audio show, and it's... I got to get into this. On the way into the studio where we broadcast the internet audio show, I was listening to some AM channel where they were interviewing Catholic bishops.
Okay.
And the subject was this list. They came up with a list of 5 non-negotiable issues. 5 things that if you are a Catholic,
you are
absolutely... No. If you're a Catholic and you're going to vote, you may not vote against these issues, or you're a bad Catholic.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
All right. So while I was listening, they got a caller who asked, how come the death penalty isn't on the list of 5?
Okay.
The Catholic Church makes a big deal about a number of different issues like euthanasia, cloning, stem cell research.
Abortion, I would assume.
Abortion, right? All these are interrelated under a philosophical argument they make that human life has a certain kind of value that cannot be compromised under any circumstances whatsoever. And so therefore all these things follow. But then the caller's question was a fair one, right? Because isn't the death penalty, which the Catholic Church is against, right? Why is the death penalty then not on this list of 5 issues that you may not vote against if you want to be a good Catholic? And the bishop's response was, well, both of the major candidates are in favor of the death penalty.
So doesn't that mean that you should just vote against someone?
He said.
Okay. Sorry.
Both the candidates are against are in favor of the death penalty. Therefore, it's not relevant to this election, so we left it off. But this is so not true. Anybody can write in a candidate for president.
Yeah.
Right? So every Catholic ought to be able to find somebody who they can write in, who is in agreement with them on all 6 of those issues, right? All the things that come from their philosophical premise.
Exactly.
Right? And so, really what they're doing when they remove that issue from the list of things is they're negotiating with that issue.
Yeah.
They're saying, yes, we think that that the death penalty is completely wrong and bad and evil, along with all these other things that we think are wrong and bad and evil for the same reason.
Yeah.
But it's okay to go ahead and vote for a guy who's in favor of the death penalty when, only one of those two guys is likely to win. Right? They're negotiating with it.
Barriers to entry.
They're negotiating with it. So, it should be every bit as non-negotiable as all those other 5 things.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It should be, if the Catholic Church was really being consistent, they would say, no, if you want to be a good Catholic, you also cannot vote for a man who is in favor of the death penalty. Therefore, you may not vote for Bush or Kerry either.
Yeah. You could either write in, or I'm sure that there are other people on other tickets who are against it also.
The hypocrisy in that just had me laughing out loud.
All right. Anyway, a little ways into the show now. Got about a little less than an hour left. Phone number will be on your screen momentarily. We are going to go ahead and talk to Cecelia. Are you there?
Hey, guys.
Hi, Cecelia.
Yeah, I just wanted to call about a couple of programs that are going to be on, or that have been on in the past, regarding atheism or theism. Law and Order tonight, you know how they like to take, I don't know if you've ever seen the show, but they take issues from, I guess, sort of like current issues, and turn them into their show. So tonight they're going to have one about the murder of an atheist. So I don't know if they're going to, the Madeline O'Hare or something like that. I don't know if they're going to have anything about that. But, I just saw the word atheist and I was like, hey, I got to tell them about it.
Okay.
All right. And the other thing I wanted to call you about, a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, someone called in about a PBS show.
Yes.
That was on. Did you guys ever get the name of that one?
I did manage to catch it, actually.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was actually called.
Unlocking the Mystery of Life.
No, that wasn't it, actually.
Oh, okay.
That was years ago on PBS or something like that. They had that on. This was something like The Question of God or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It was talking about, and it talked about Sigmund Freud and the Christian apologetics guy a while back, contemporary of Freud, C.S. Lewis.
Oh, okay. This one was specifically sort of geared towards like from a scientific standpoint, and it was on PBS, and it was a little disturbing. It's called Unlocking the Mystery of Life, and they based a lot of their theories or hypotheses and things like that on the Michael Denton book, Evolution, A Theory in Crisis. You guys have probably heard of that one, and Michael Behe, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The fact that the bacterial flagellum, that it has to be, there has to be design from
was
that.
it a whole long talk about the flagellum?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and that was on recently?
Yes, it was on recently.
That
is that one. Yeah, I have a tape of that. That's a couple years old, actually.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Apparently they're running it again, because I have a tape of it that was sent to the show.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you guys know about it, okay.
Wow.
And I guess the only other thing, when I was on hold, the caller was talking about the problem of evil, and I've talked with other Christians in my family about this, and they usually say, well, God didn't create evil, the devil did. And I was like, well, if God created the devil, or everything, then God created evil. Or he can't, what was it, that God cannot be around evil or be touched by it or anything like that, anything bad or different from pure goodness or something. But if he,
I don't know if they're talking also possibly about the fall of Lucifer, the Satan. The angel.
It's all it's layer upon layer upon layer of misdirection and complexity to try to disguise the core issues, right?
Yeah, it's circular logic.
Oh, well, God didn't create evil. Adam and Eve ate the apple. Well, then God made Adam and Eve bad, didn't he? No, because it was Satan that talked Adam and Eve into eating the apple. Oh, well, then God made Satan bad, right? No, see, God made Satan good, but Satan rebelled against God. Well, then God made Satan bad.
Yeah,
I mean, if rebelling against bad is a bad thing. It's
circular logic. It's completely.
You just
it doesn't make any sense.
That's why it's hard to argue with Christians, because you just have to slog your way through all these different layers of deception in order to get to the core issues.
Very true.
Sad.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much for calling. Bye.
Law and Order. I've actually never watched that show.
Neither have
Maybe
I.
I will tonight.
I've heard a lot of people who love that show. I'm wondering never got into it.
What's the show about? If an episode is they're investigating a murder of an atheist, I mean, so what? Madeleine Murray O'Hare's case was interesting because she was the head of a big organization, right?
Yeah.
And she was a controversial person. But are they going to make up a controversial person so they can have a show about it?
Never know. Never know. This is primetime television.
Interesting.
Anyway, let's go on to more callers. We have got Stephen. You there?
Hello?
Yes, you there?
Yeah, I just want to know what y'all think about George Bush using his promoting his faith and bringing that into politics. Well, not, I guess in order to gather votes. And also, what do you think about, is that what our society has come to as far as attracting a president or electing one?
Yeah. Both sides are doing a little bit of pandering. Bush seems to be doing it a little bit more.
Kerry decided he had to in order to keep some votes.
Yeah. Well,
but
it's still doing it.
Before Kerry decided he had to in order to keep some votes, Bush decided he was going to in order to get some votes.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no real difference there.
So
it's just a question of who went down that path first.
Yeah. In general, it's something, again, separation of church and state. I don't think that's something that should really matter or has any bearing on reality. Well, I don't think that they should be promoting that. I think it's a sad fact that they'd have to.
It's just people are going with the argument that, well, I trust someone to make the decision, a man who has faith. Wondering what y'all's thoughts on that.
I would prefer a man who has arguments and has facts on his side. If you look at any given situation and say, I have these facts to decide this situation, let me decide based on that, rather than, my gut kind of says, let's go for this way. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So
I have another comment too. I mean, the only reason that this whole thing is an issue, the only reason that you have to pose as a Christian in this country in order to get elected is because, I'm going to paint with a slightly broad brush here. Obviously, there are exceptions. But in general, the Christian religion, that is the biggest religion in our country, teaches that if you're not a Christian, you're an untrustworthy person, right? That there's something wrong with you, you can't be trusted, you shouldn't be making the important decisions, you need help, right? And so, to me, the real problem is that we have a huge religion in our country that teaches that.
It's our perception is what it's being distorted.
Yeah, that's the problem. That is really the problem. Because people with all kinds of different philosophical systems can make good decisions. They can.
Yeah.
It's just not, but Christianity is spinning this lie about non-members, and it turns it into a big club that you got to be a member of if you want to participate in the country, and that's just wrong.
Yeah.
But
did you have anything else for us?
No, that was it. I'm an Iraqi freedom veteran, and I'm back here out of the.
Thank you for your service.
I was wondering.
Glad to have you back.
I was just wondering what y'all thought. I support y'all. I mean, everything's cool. We share a lot of the same beliefs. So.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for calling.
Thanks a lot for calling. All right. Again, live call-in show. More than welcome to call in and let us know. And also, any atheist-friendly people out there, we have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. More than welcome to come down there, meet us, and just have a good time. Let's go on to Ryan. You there?
Yes.
Okay. What you got for us?
Just setting up my question right now. I consider myself an agnostic.
Okay. A quick point. If you have your TV on, either mute it or turn it off. Just getting some weird feedback here.
Alright.
Okay.
Anyway.
I was wondering y'all's opinion of the interpretation of the Bible. I kind of took it as not a literal story, like just talking about Genesis, Adam and Eve, but as a history that man wrote. And I don't know if you're familiar with the 7 points in the psychology of man of why religion created a reason for death and a way to take that fear away, a reason of laws and all this.
Yeah.
What is y'all's interpretation of why religion was created and the purpose it serves in our society?
I think that is from everything that I've thought about, at least, its biggest bonus is it answers questions that we don't have an answer for, or we don't like the answer. I don't like the answer that in 50 years from now or whatever, I'm going to die, and that's the end of it. I don't have a consciousness that goes on. That kind of sucks. So religion can step in and say, okay, here's a better answer that you like. You'll get to live forever. That's kind of cool. So that's a bonus point to it. And also, we don't have answers. Why do bad things happen? Why are there earthquakes? Well, religion can step in and soothe the wounds, at least. So, of course.
I have a
different
comment
take
about this too. Yeah, I have a slightly different. I mean, I think that's all true. I think that, but I think that what you're answering there with that response, Ashley, is I think you're answering the question: why does religion work? Not why was it created? Because I have trouble imagining, some caveman going, Og not like to think he will die. Me get Og to give me skins by telling Og he not going to die. It's hard for me to imagine that it was something like that. I have a kind of interesting perspective on the whole thing because I am in the entertainment industry, and my parents are ministers. They weren't when I was growing up. They got into that after I was out of the house. But when I go and visit them and I see the inner workings that they go through to prepare their sermons and organize activities and stuff, what strikes me is that what they are engaging in, the business that they seem to really be in to me, is the entertainment business. They are all about putting on a good show, entertaining their customers and keeping their customers happy. But to me, the only difference between religion and entertainment is that they both tell made-up stories, only the people in the religion business have forgotten that that's what they're doing. Because if you go see like Terminator, right, and come out of the theater thinking, oh my gosh, maybe a killer robot from the future is going to come and get me, then you've made the same kind of mistake that I think people make when they go to church, right? They're hearing made-up, entertaining, exciting stories and thinking it's true. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I think the reason why it catches on is because people do have these emotional needs that these entertainers have found get the best results when they present, things to deal with those emotional needs in front of their customers. That is what gets the customers to keep coming back. But I think ultimately it's entertainment.
Well, I don't know if I per se believe in a higher power, but I've read the Bible and I believe in most of its teaching on how the guideline for your life, how to live your life. Would you say you would agree with that, or you just completely dismiss it?
The Bible seems to be, as Jeff puts it very often, a big book of multiple choice. You can find anything in there to support pretty much any position with a little bit of effort. If you want to be a good person, they have stuff about that. If you want to go out and kill people and murder and steal, have slaves, they have stuff on that. Do whatever you want, you can support it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that just a straight reading of the Bible is going to give you any moral compass, anything that's good. As far as I keep losing my point here.
Want me to take over?
Yeah, go for it. I'm blanked out. Sorry.
We've been having this all day, but
just out of it today.
Yeah, what Ashley was saying. The Bible says so many different conflicting things on so many different subjects. Yeah, of course, it says many things I completely agree with. But on most of those things, I can also find a place where it says either the opposite or some other off-the-wall thing that I think is just nuts. That is what you would expect from a book that's really a whole bunch of separate books written independently that were then later gathered up by council, and they said these books here are going to be put into one big book, and we're going to call that our holy book. I mean, you'd expect it to be kind of all over the place, and it is.
And by extension, if we have to pick and choose, because again, there are things in here that say if somebody doesn't agree with you, then you can kill them. If we have to go through there and pick and choose, well, this one's where it says don't murder, that's good. Don't steal, that's good. Kill everyone who's of a different race, not so good. If you have to go through and pick and choose,
then you're really choosing your own morality in the first place.
Exactly, you're choosing your own morality. What basis are you using to pick this?
Yeah.
To pick the good ones, and can you not then use that same judgment to make up the rules yourself, essentially?
And that raises another good point. In my opinion, what the ultimate effect the Bible has on people that actually believe it is it prevents them from having a real understanding of morality. Yeah. Because the message in the Bible is the things that are good because God says they're good, and the things that are bad because God says that they're bad, which to me is a complete misunderstanding of what morality is, where it comes from, and what it's for, right? Any moral or ethical system, its purpose, the reason we want to have a thing like that is so we can get along. So we can get along with each other. And, to brush that all aside and say, no, it's going to be this list of 10 things that we'll carve on a big tablet, or this much larger list of things that happen to be written down in a holy book that we can sift through to try to find a thing that says what we want it to say, right, is missing the point. I mean, morality really is about figuring out how to get along with your fellow man. And the Bible's not really about that.
Yes. Can I ask you one more quick question?
Yeah.
Sure.
On abortion, outside of the religious argument, do you have an argument against abortion without using religion? Because I'm just a young kid, and my argument for pro-choice is that if I were to get a girl pregnant, I have the opportunity to abort the pregnancy, and I don't have the responsibility of raising a kid as I'm a kid myself. Yeah. I mean, is that kind of would you say that's a low blow, just copping out, or?
Not that far, but
I have a response.
Go for it then.
I think anytime anybody makes a mistake, it's unfortunate, right? And what we ought to be doing is trying not to make mistakes. So I'm all in favor of, properly using birth control. If you don't actually want to make babies, you should be using the birth control so you don't make babies.
Accidents happen.
But sure. And then, so then the question is, well, when somebody has made a mistake, what do, right? Do you, it seems like the religious answer to that particular mistake is, well, that baby got, it started. The process got started. That's going to have to be a human being now. And I don't see why. I mean, if I've written a book and I ship it off to the publishers and I look and say, oh, I misspelled the last word in the book, and I call up the publisher and their response was, no, I'm sorry. You put that manuscript in the mail, and now it's just going to have to go and become a book, with that mistake in it, just because you did it. And that seems just completely mean. The thing to do if a mistake has happened is, deal with it responsibly. And that can mean raising the kid, if that is the right thing to do, or it can mean terminating the pregnancy, if that's the thing you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any, a moral argument outside of religion against abortion? I mean,
the first thing I said, that it constitutes a mistake, and it's bad whenever we make mistakes because they require these extra steps to fix them, right? You should try to avoid making babies you don't want.
Well, I'm just asking for your personal opinion on the matter.
That is my personal opinion on the matter. That's it.
You should deal with the mistake, or
you should deal with the mistake. But okay, all right. I'm sorry. I'm being unclear. We should be trying not to have unwanted children in the first place, or unwanted pregnancies in the first place, right?
Yeah.
If we have unwanted pregnancies, there are a variety of solutions, not just one. That's what I'm trying to say. So no, in answer to your question, no, I do not have an argument against abortion, a non-theistic argument against abortion.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate, the consequences of a lot of human mistakes. It's too bad we had to go there, but, sometimes we have to go there.
Yeah. As he was saying, this is not a black or white situation. There are lots of different solutions. Assuming that someone is now pregnant, you can get an abortion, you can raise the kid yourself, you can go to adoption. There are lots of different potential solutions. You have to look at the situation, find out which of these is the best fitting, and go from there. There is no black and white rule saying abortion good, abortion bad. World doesn't work like that. So.
Got it.
Have anything else for us?
That's it, thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot for calling. All right. Did you have any other comments?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
It took too long to answer that properly. I'm sorry. I'm much more used to asking what's wrong with the religious answer to that, and I've got a much clearer response to that one. But asking me for a non-theistic argument against abortion, well, I don't have one. Mm-hmm. I don't have one.
Yeah.
I could talk about the situation and the pros and cons, but it's pros and cons. It's not black and white.
Yeah. So. All right, about a half an hour left. Phone number will be on your screen again. Let's go ahead and talk to more callers. We have got Robbie. You there?
Yo, big guy, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
What are you doing? I heard you said something about candidates.
Yep.
Like president or vice president or something like that?
Yeah.
President. Well, there's an election on November 2.
I just voted for a Republican.
Okay.
Named George W. Bush.
Okay.
And George W. Bush is the best guy ever had.
Okay. Thanks for your call.
Yeah, that's good. That's
another one you need to know about.
One thing. This is the Atheist Experience. Not entirely on topic.
Yeah, but there's something else.
But yeah, people are free to vote for whoever they want.
I know, but there's something else. There's a state rep. And I just voted for Jack Stick.
Okay.
I'll see ya.
Thanks a lot. Vote for whoever makes you happy.
Wow, I'm a big believer in the fact that your vote is meaningful.
Yeah.
Not that meaningful. Calm down, kid.
All right.
It's a good thing that it's a good thing that you participated in the process. Congratulations.
All right. Let's go on to yet more callers. We have got Natalie. You there?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Doing all right. How are y'all?
Okay. If we can get a little more volume in here, control room. Thank you. Anyway, what you got for us?
I was listening about probably 20 minutes ago. Y'all were talking about how that, why is there evil type thing against good,
Okay.
And I was thinking if we didn't have evil, we wouldn't know that was good. If we didn't have sadness, we wouldn't know happiness, or etc. Do you agree or disagree with that kind of fact? Because, I think it has to exist, or else, we would have no comparison.
Okay.
Can you imagine a dragon?
Sure.
Well, I think that disproves your point. It's entirely possible to imagine things that don't exist. And so, you see what I'm saying? It's not like I have to have an anti-dragon in order to know what a dragon is. And dragons are made up. Dragons don't even have to exist. Neither they nor their opposite has to exist in order for me to imagine them.
Right, but that's very physical. That's like a physical. You know what I mean?
I don't care. Okay, fine. Boy. Now I'm going to have to make up a fantasy emotion. I used to be compelled by that argument that
right.
There needs to be evil in order for us to understand good. But no, good people read, for example, books where evil things happen in them all the time. It's not like the evil had to exist in order for that evil to be imagined and written down in a book. There's all kinds of fictitious books about evil events that people read all the time.
Right.
And clearly, we can have an understanding of evil without having any actual evil.
Right. I see. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for calling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyway, let's go on to yet more callers. We have got Ed. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I don't totally buy that explanation of good and evil, but what I really talked to you about was the whole comparison about an abortion to a book, a mistake in a publication that you made earlier. Don't you think that's a little bit thin?
I don't mean it as a comparison of you know.
We're not trying to trivialize it here.
Yeah, that they're on the same level. I don't mean to say they're on the same level. I'm just saying. I'm saying, you know, here is a much less important thing, right? A much less important issue, a mere manuscript going on for publication, right? And just how perniciously cruel and unfair it would be for somebody to say, well, because that mistake has been committed, you're now stuck with it, even when there's still an opportunity to fix it. And, and it's much worse. It's much worse when you talk about a much more important thing.
Yeah, my point is, where does that opportunity end? I mean, because that being the argument, you could abort the baby the day before its due date and make that argument.
You're right. And you know, this didn't come up in the previous call, but the thing about when life begins is we don't know, right? I mean, and when we do know, what that's going to really mean, I mean, if somebody says, I know when life begins, and it's this, well, what they're doing is they're just making a statement and saying that that's when it is. It's always going to be, always going to be somebody arbitrarily deciding where to draw the line.
Sure.
Right? And
so, you know, like if they found a zygote on Mars, they would say that's life.
Yeah.
You know, and they would say, we found life on Mars, and they would define it as life. Now, I'm not saying the zygote is life as far as but my point is, you know,
but even if they did, right? I mean, I'll grant you that. But even if they did, still, what they'd be doing is arbitrarily drawing that line. The line is going to be drawn arbitrarily, one way or another, no matter where you draw it, because there's actually, in reality, no hard distinction between before when it's a life and after when it's a life. There's a constant series of minor changes that accumulate as the egg develops into a fetus and then into a baby, right? It's a constant, slow, gradual process of change. There is no hard line. So ultimately that decision is going to be made by some kind of consensus. And I think the problem comes in when some religious organization says, well, we know because our invisible friend told us when it is.
Well,
that's when there's a problem.
Because I would define myself as Christian, but I don't use that as the basis for my belief.
What's the basis for your belief? I mean, how do you know?
Well, I know because if a fetus has the beginnings of a nervous system, if it's something like a premature baby that could live on its own, even with a little bit of help, I mean, that is an organism. That is a human organism in one shape or another.
And I think, if I understand it correctly, that is the kind of thinking that is being used right now to determine, what the current arbitrary line after which you're not allowed to abort.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's the kind of thinking that goes on. It's reasonable thinking. I don't have a problem with that. It makes more sense than, some 2,000-year-old holy book being used as the argument.
Well, I agree with that. Set the holy book aside for a second.
Okay, good.
I'm not using that in my argument, and I believe in it.
Okay.
My point is, you couldn't come up with a logical reasoning that's agnostic and set apart from religion against abortion. And I'm saying that there can be, because I don't believe that any other species abort their children.
But the caller didn't ask me whether I could come up with a non-religious argument for when that arbitrary line should be drawn.
Sure he did.
He asked whether I had an argument against abortion, period. I don't have an argument, a non-theistic argument against abortion, period. And it sounds like neither do you, because it sounds like you would agree that before that stage in development, it's okay. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I'm not going to judge one person one way or the other. I'm a grown adult and you're a grown adult, and I take no responsibility for you or your actions. But I'm saying that the argument could be made, and you're saying that it can't.
No. You misunderstood. That caller was asking me if I had a non-theistic argument against abortion, period, and I don't. Not against abortion, period. I think there are rational arguments to be made that we can use to help us draw a reasonable, though ultimately arbitrary, line that says before this point in development you can abort and after you can't. Right? That's not what that caller was asking me. That's not what that caller was asking me.
At the same time, you're the one that brought the whole Bible thing into it, not him. I mean, you know.
No. When he says a non-theistic argument, I assumed Christianity because it's the biggest religion in our country.
Well, maybe
that not fair?
But okay. I'll take that argument for now that it is the biggest religion. I don't really believe that, but
really, what do you think is the biggest religion in the United States?
I would say that the Muslim religion in and of itself, because Christianity really isn't a religion per se. There's several different types of religions.
Oh boy! All right, fine.
But I'm not going to.
But that's not what your call was about. Let's not go there. Okay.
I'm not going to get semantic. I mean.
All right, go ahead. So back to the abortion thing. I mean, are you and I still in disagreement? I think.
No, I think
we agree.
I kind of see your point, but I think you. I think you could have stated it clearer, is what I'm saying.
Probably so. I recall when that
shot at the Bible when you could have said what you just said to me right now.
Yeah, he was asking me what I perceive as a different question.
But I
also remember when that caller went away, I said I think that I didn't handle that well. I'm sorry, I talked over you. My fault.
No, I'm just saying. I can agree with what you just said. I can see the logic in that. Being a Christian, according to you, I wouldn't be able to. Okay.
Oh, but remember what I said earlier about painting with a slightly broad brush? I mean, when we talk about Christianity, like you just said, there's a whole bunch of different interpretations of the Bible, right?
Sure.
But when we talk about religiously driven pro-life arguments, they tend to be of the nature I was talking about.
Yeah, well,
they're not. I mean, if the argument you just made, having to do with, the stages of development of the fetus, that has nothing to do with religion.
Well, you
have a non-religious argument, for drawing that line, and I applaud you for that. That's great.
Well, I'm just saying, even without religion, there can be a school of thought saying abortion it's an unnatural thing to stick vacuums and forceps and stuff into somebody to extract cells, a fetus, a zygote, or whatever. It's just an unnatural act. I mean, in and of itself, can't that be an argument that's not religious?
If you want to extend that out, though, there's a lot of things that we do that aren't natural. Our natural, if you want to go back to, we'll call them caveman type thing, natural, the average lifespan was like 25.
Right.
Polio is natural. Chickenpox is natural.
Yeah, but now you're
this conversation we're having now,
it's on its way to becoming a baby to a virus.
It's not natural to have penicillin. So
yeah,
he's absolutely right, caller. I mean,
but that's a scary road to go down when you're comparing like a fetus. Just because it's not a baby.
But you brought up the naturalism argument, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with is it natural or isn't it argument is that there's all kinds of other things we have no moral objections to that aren't natural. Sure. Does that mean we shouldn't have them? Really, then, what you're doing is you have a moral objection to it, and you're trying to point at nature and say that nature supports you, when really, if you do that, then you also have to not have automobiles, we have to not have this television show, we have to not be having this conversation. Huh?
Not true, because...
How's that? Where do you draw the line?
If I'm using morals, I can also say, like, in a country like China where they force women to have abortions, they force them to have vaccinations too. But I mean, that's totally against someone's will to have a state government say, you can't have a kid and I'm taking this baby away from you.
Yeah, I know that previous caller did not ask. I know that the previous caller did not ask me for a non-theistic argument against forcing people to have abortions.
Right.
So you're going, this is more territory we don't need to get into. That's a whole separate issue, right?
Right.
I don't think we should force people to jump out of airplanes with parachutes on, but, I mean...
Going back to your idea that, is there a non-theistic explanation or reason not to have abortions? You gave one. Yes, that's a reason. We think it's a bad one, but it's a reason.
Well, no, the argument he gave, the one about...
Because it's not natural, I don't think that's a good one. Yes, that's good.
The thing about stages of development of the fetus, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. That is a reasonable argument.
But to say that here's an argument against abortion, that it's not natural and it doesn't happen, in lions, I don't think that's a good one. It's an argument.
Right.
I just think it's a bad one.
Right.
Well, so is comparing it to a virus, though. I mean, a fetus and a virus, one of it is an invasive organism.
No. Ashley's argument is entirely fair once you raise the specter of is it natural or not. If natural is the standard, then all non-natural things have to go.
Yeah.
And I think,
How do you figure that? I mean,
why are you bringing up nature if that is not your standard for deciding what's acceptable and what's not?
No, I'm saying it's a combination of morals and, I mean, you're saying that it's not moral then. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's amoral. I don't get that.
You said,
argument.
Caller, you said that there is a non-theistic argument against abortion in general that can be made by saying it's not natural, right? That was the argument you made.
Sure.
Okay, and our point is there are all kinds of other things that are not natural that we have no problem with. So whether it's natural or not isn't the issue, and therefore that's not a good argument.
I'm saying from a moral standpoint it is.
Then don't bring in nature, because what you really care about is the morality. And where do you get your morality from?
I get my morality from what's natural, what's human. I mean, what's right. I mean, don't you guys...
Then again, cars are immoral.
Like, you sit there and you rank on Christians or Muslims or whomever because they set their morals according to guidelines in a book. So, but you never actually come out and say what you set your guidelines to.
I'll happily. Okay. Would you like to know?
Yeah, we haven't had that question yet.
We'll tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen your show for 6 years now, and I've never seen you answer it.
Then you haven't been watching for 6 years.
You haven't watched every episode. I know this comes up. This comes up on a regular basis.
The same episode, like the first time I ever turned you on. You kind of do the same thing over and over again.
Well, because we're dealing with a first-time audience, but we've gone over this question many, 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 many times.
Do you want to hear it now?
Maybe you could share it sometime. I don't know.
How about now?
Yeah, how about now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. In fact, I brought this up earlier in the show. What morality is about, the point to having a moral system is so that we can get along. That is the point.
Based on what, though? I mean, that's totally...
Based on human interaction.
I don't buy that.
Oh, what? I'm sorry, but now we have stated where we get our moral system from.
Yeah, but that's a thinner argument than the whole nature thing, because the Romans were totally... That they did whatever they wanted, and that was okay according to...
Romans had all kinds of laws. What are you talking about?
Well, that's my point. It's like the laws in other countries are completely different, and the morals and cultural mores are different over there than what they are here.
Of course they are. So what?
Well, they're slightly different. They are not entirely different.
They can be.
There are typically no society has been around that says murder's good, kill your neighbors.
Well,
and if society did say that, they're gone now.
But so what? I mean, you asked me where we get our morals from, and I told you. Now, if you're going to say, well, but that source, right, examining human interaction and trying to figure out the best way to get along with each other, that is not 100% perfect, I completely agree with you. I never said it was.
Okay, well, I can agree with that then.
Okay. I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect moral system.
And the rest we can agree to disagree.
About what?
About everything else.
Okay, everything else. That's odd, because the few things where we've really gotten to the core of it, we've agreed. We've agreed with everything that really matters.
What I take issue to is that you paint, as me as a Christian, watching your show, that I'm some moron who's following Jimmy Swaggart in a blue polyester suit.
No. You know what I will say? Here's what I'll say. I think that to the extent that people take Christianity seriously, they are exactly that kind of person you're talking about. I think that what you have just proved in this call, that when you look at the development of the fetus for argument about when abortion is acceptable and not acceptable, that means you're not taking the religion seriously on that count, and that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm taking it. I'm just saying I'm not going to judge anybody because it's not up to me.
Well, I mean, there's the Bible, right? And there's a bunch of different religions that use the Bible as their holy book. Now, you sound like you are not a fundamentalist. Are you?
I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. I just read the Bible and
those Jimmy Swaggart people you were talking about earlier. You're not one of those, right? You just said you weren't.
I guess not.
In my opinion, those are the people that take the Bible most seriously.
Sure.
Well, so that's the point I'm making. The more seriously you take it, the worse it is. And if you take it less seriously to the point where you're making decisions based on reason and evidence instead of on the Bible, good for you.
Well, I use both. I mean,
well, that's fine. So you're not perfect, but
that's part of being rational and reasoning and living in a world where we get along. But the flip side is when you paint with such a broad paintbrush, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of go against the grain of getting along?
There was a reason why I went up front and said I'm going to paint with a slightly broad brush here, right? And that was to admit up front that I'm making generalizations. And those generalizations don't apply to everyone. So if you think you're one of the people it doesn't apply to, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. And we don't often say, but we certainly know that when we bring on stories about Christians who've done really wacky things and all that,
sure,
it's the lunatic fringe that's doing the weird stuff. We're not, 90% of Christians, perfectly reasonable people. Perfectly
I can agree with that.
They have this idea of God,
50%.
which somewhere in that gray area there. But regardless, they have this idea about God and Jesus being nailed to a cross and stuff like that. Kind of weird, kind of loopy. But in general, day-to-day life, perfectly reasonable people.
Well,
but there are a couple of people out there who are just really wacky.
Because that's the way Romans killed people, was they nailed people to crosses.
Yeah, and that's
a whole other phone call. Why don't you watch our show some more and give us a call in a later episode, and we'll go down those roads with you.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
All right.
Okay. Thanks for calling. Bye. All right. Let's go on to yet more callers. We have got Greg. You there?
Yes.
Okay. How you doing?
Oh, okay. This guy's taking about 15 minutes of my time.
Sorry. Well,
not all your time.
Your time starts now. Go.
Somebody's time. Anyway, I thought you guys might know something about this DAVINCI Code. I keep hearing and reading about it.
Wow.
All I know is I walked into a bookstore a few months back, and there was this book, the DAVINCI Code, that I just heard rumors about, and it was on a table with like 20 other books, all written by pissed off Christians trying to contradict it. And I thought, I gotta own me a copy of that book. So I bought it. I haven't read it yet, though, so I can't tell you anything about it. I have no idea.
Well,
all I know is it annoys Christians. That's all I know.
Is it supposed to be a fiction book or nonfiction or research?
I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
From my understanding, it's supposed to be fiction. I don't know the details on it, but I'm under the impression that it was written as a fiction book, but it's kind of got basis on reality or basis on the Bible, in the sense that you'll have books that are written about planes, going into New York and stuff like that. You've got books written on that which are fictional, but they're semi-based on a form of reality. So if that's what this book is, then it's fiction. And I don't know why everybody's getting in a tizzy
you can
about
probably go to a bookstore and you can probably figure this out for yourself by checking what section they put it in.
Yeah, I keep meaning to look into it, but I never can get around to it.
I wish I had that information for you. I'm going to try to read the darn thing now.
I would very much like to hear your opinion once you're done on it, because I've heard so much on that book.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Yeah, I've heard so many people that have read that book. I mean, a couple months back, it's like everybody I knew and their brother was in the middle of it.
Yeah, I could tell you the little snippets of rumors that I've picked up about it, but it probably would not be informative, so let's not even go there.
Okay. All right, a couple minutes left in the show. We're live today. Phone number will be on your screen. We're going to go ahead and take more callers until we got no time. We have got Mark. You there? Whoa. We have not got Mark.
If that was Mark, we don't got him.
All right. I'm not too sure about the... Okay, we're getting a note from our audience, from our screener, that the DAVINCI Code is fiction. Now, again, exactly where that line is drawn, not too sure. But that is what we are getting now.
Yeah, but so is the Bible, so.
Exactly. So while we are trying to get some callers lined up, let me see if I can go through one more story, because I think our thing on there, yes, exactly, is a little bit wacky. Anyway, here's another story. We've had a couple of these every now and then about Christian groups on campus.
Yeah.
Be it UT or any other campus out there. They want to have their Christian group, which says atheists can't be a member. Gays can't be a member. But they still want to be recognized and get funding. So here, a Christian group is suing Hastings College of Law in federal court here Friday for not recognizing it as an official campus organization. The Christian Legal Society says it should get campus funding and other benefits, but does not have to open its membership to gays, lesbians, and non-believers. All requirements from the San Francisco Law School, which is run by the University of California. The First Amendment provides a right of expressive association. We want to associate with people that affirm a certain number of our beliefs, which I'm okay with. I disagree with how they draw those lines. I disagree with their ideas and their beliefs. But if you want to form a group and you don't want to have gays as members or something like that, go for it. I don't see a problem. Now, where I do have a problem is if you want to say the government should pay me for this. That's where I have issues, because the government should not be paying you for your bigotry.
Really? And then, so that's really the core of their argument. They're saying all non-discrimination federal law is wrong.
I don't know if they would go quite that far.
Well, I mean, if you have the right of expressive, what do they call it?
Expressive association.
Expressive association, where you make a statement by who you're willing to associate with or not, and they call that, a basic right. Then there can't be any federal laws that say no, this group has to allow all types of people, because any instance of that would violate that right of
expressive association.
Expressive blah 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 blah. And that doesn't surprise me, because a lot of bigotry and prejudice goes hand in hand, and a lot of times you'll find the people that don't want to associate with certain other kinds of people will extend that to more kinds of people they don't want to associate with, like Jews or black people or whatever it is that you get it into your head is something you can't tolerate.
Yeah. So.
But it seems to me the government has established that they can, in fact, say that the government money cannot be used to finance discriminatory groups.
Exactly.
I think that's been established, and if they're going after that, they're going after that core concept. And I'm against that.
Okay.
I'm against their attack on that concept.
Yeah. So they have every right to have their group and discriminate in their group any way they want.
I would agree.
And we do the same thing.
But they can't ask for government money for it.
If you want to be a member of the
they
ACA,
can, however, ask for tax exemption for it. They can do that.
Yes.
We do that.
Yes.
But that's it.
Yeah. But you're not going to get federal funding for being discriminatory. Doesn't work that way. So anyway, a couple minutes left in the show. We will go ahead and take more callers. We have got Ariel.
Hi.
Hey, what you got for us?
I was just wondering if you can just tell me one fact about evolution that's true, assuming that's what you believe in.
And one fact about evolution that's true.
Yeah.
It's a very broad theory.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by that? Do you want an example of evolution that has been observed?
No, I mean just basically like the creation of the Earth.
Is not evolution.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with evolution.
And no, also, I mean, humans evolving from.
Yeah. They did.
Bacteria.
How's that? Okay. You understand that to get from a thing like a bacteria to a thing like a human being would take a huge number of transitional steps?
Right.
Okay. Well, then I will answer your question. Yes, human beings, ultimately, if you trace our ancestry back, you'll get to a thing like a bacteria.
But, I mean, there's never been any fossils found that have proven the transitions.
But you don't. But that's not how transitions work. Here, let me explain something to you about transitional forms. Okay. People who criticize evolution talk about transitional forms as if what you gotta find is like a creature with that's going from I try to find a good example.
Snake to a bird.
Yeah, snake. Something that's going from a snake to a bird that's half snake and half bird. Well, it doesn't work like that. Every single life form that ever existed is a complete life form unto itself, right? It's a species. It's that over time, separate groups slowly diverge, but all the time, every single fossil of every single one is a complete creature. It's not like a hybrid monster. You never find that because that's not what evolution says you should find.
Okay. I mean, I've also heard that some creatures just took very large steps in evolution to become other creatures, and that's why there were no transitions found.
There's a concept that I'm not a paleontologist. I'm not an evolutionary biologist, so I can only tell you what I've heard. My understanding is that there's this concept called punctuated equilibrium that says that what looks like gaps in the fossil record might be explained by short periods of relatively rapid evolution. But when we say short periods of relatively rapid evolution, we mean like 5 million years instead of 50 million years, right?
Yeah.
That kind of short period.
Okay.
Nobody ever said, no scientist ever said that, like, a kangaroo gave birth to a platypus.
Right.
Right? It doesn't work like that. Nobody ever said that.
Well, actually, I have heard in the book I read that they said that one day a dinosaur laid an egg and a bird came out.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Whoever wrote that book was lying to you about what evolution says.
Okay.
What came out of that egg was a dinosaur that was very, very slightly more like a bird than the dinosaur that it was born from. That's all.
Okay.
But to our eyes, practically imperceptible.
Well,
We're not saying a dinosaur with feathers.
Okay.
Very funny.
I'm just wondering, like, what's your theory on how the Earth was created?
That's called cosmology. That's basically how, dirt and stuff like that in space forms and collapses into planets.
Yeah, gravity. See, the universe is full of dust. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Okay, there's like matter all over the place. If you look at Hubble telescope pictures, you can see these huge clouds of dust. Well, there's gravity, right? And gravity, even a piece of dust generates gravity. It pulls things toward it.
Yeah.
And when enough stuff pulls toward itself, it starts to clump, and then it gets, to be a bigger and bigger clump of stuff, and that is ultimately where you get, like, suns and planets and things from.
Right, but where can life be formed from dust?
Yeah, but
that's
now
a whole
we're talking about
different. That's a different question.
Well, I mean, that was like
those are two separate areas.
Yeah. Here is a website for you and everyone else who's watching to go to.
Caller, you sound kind of young. How old are you?
15.
15? Okay.
Yeah.
I hope this isn't over Ariel's head.
Well, for you and anyone else who's watching, there's a website on your screen, talkorigins.org. They have lots of articles and facts on there which kind of talk about how do planets form, where did life come from, how did life first start, what is evolution, where does evolution pick up, what are our theories about it, all that kind of stuff. It explains a lot of it in detail. So that is a good site.
I was just wondering what your opinion was, because I'm pretty...
My opinion
is mostly covered by that site.
My opinion is that there are people called scientists, and their job is to look at the evidence and try to figure out what happened. And then there are people called preachers, and their job is to take a 2,000-year-old holy book and tell people that that book was already right about stuff that nobody had ever studied because God told the people that wrote the book the truth, right? And of those two groups, when it comes to things like evolution and the origins of the Earth, I trust the scientists and not the preachers. That's my opinion.
But I'm just saying, I don't find any truth in anything that they speak because nothing's actually been proven.
Well, if you go to that website, they can show you all kinds of stuff that's been proven.
Yeah, you haven't looked all that hard then. So, anyway, we're going to let you go because we've only got about a minute left on the show. But thanks all for calling.
Yeah.
Yes, science has proven itself time and time and time again that it's a pretty reliable way of looking at the world and making progress. The church doesn't make all that much progress in the world. It's science that gave us the polio vaccine.
The kind of progress that religion makes It's that caller who is willing to look at abortion from the standpoint of the biological evidence rather than religious dictates, right? The way that religion evolves is people slowly over time start to draw away from it and look at the actual facts.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's a good thing.
So, if you did not get a chance to get on the air this week, we are very sorry about that. We'll be on next week. But you can write to us in the meantime, tv@atheist-community.org. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
And remember, it's election season.
Yes, you can go vote for your candidate of choice.
You can go vote. There's early voting.
And we will see everyone next week.
Bye-bye.